Man, there's a lot of stuff that Mace and Usher know that they ain't telling about Diddy. There's a lot of stuff that they know. Can you imagine, bruh? Can you really imagine?
What you mean by Usher though?
Usher used to stay with Diddy too, when he was younger.
My brother right here from day one, we used to wake up and, pause, but like just back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the frosted flakes, you know what I'm saying, before pause was invented.
So Don Richards just leaked receipts that put Usher right at the scene of Diddy's freakoffs. And it turns out that Usher was not the we thought he was. According to Don, not only was Usher allegedly getting freaky dicky, but he was also allegedly the one holding the camera. Now y'all know how multiple people have come out to claim that Diddy allegedly had the freaks recorded, right? Well, yet it turns out that Usher was allegedly the cameraman the entire time. Now for years folks assumed Usher was just another name on these long list of people he allegedly took advantage of. But if what's coming out now is true, we might have had it all backwards. Lately, there's been talk that the feds are digging into whether Usher actually played a bigger role in Diddy's shady dealings more than anyone thought. It's not just speculation anymore, because Don's statement heated up the situation all over again. On top of all that, there are whispers he may have helped Diddy recruit or groom other young men now. People are giving Usher the side eye, wondering if he was more involved than he let on. And if these investigations pan out, he might be looking at seriously legal drama of his own. Y'all, it's getting real messy out here. So let's unpack it, okay? So Diddy's trial is in full swing, and things have not been going his way, from Cassie's testimony that got the ball rolling to Don Richards exposing Usher. It's a whole mess. But speaking of Usher, fans are seriously stunned by the idea that he might be on the Fed's radar now. For the longest time, he was seen as one of the people caught in Daddy's web, but not someone who might have actually played a role in the madness. I mean, he was only 13 when he moved in with Diddy, and with all the talk over the years about Diddy's weird, inappropriate behavior around young boys, most folks just assumed Usher was one of the ones who gotten taken advantage of. But now this new angle has people completely thrown. It's flipping the whole story on its head now. Usher has stayed real quiet about whatever happened between him and Diddy back in the day, and honestly, who could blame him? There's no shortage of stories about Diddy allegedly threatening people into silence. You're talking about a man who reportedly blew up Kid Cudi's car to send a message, and Cudi himself backed that up. Now, if Diddy's bold enough to come forward, someone who is as high profile as Kid Cudi, just imagine what he might have been doing to people without that kind of visibility or protection. It's no wonder folks kept their mouths shut. But here's the wild part. Word in the streets is that the feds have allegedly been on to Diddy's rumored fixation with young boys for years. Like, this isn't some new investigation, because they've supposedly been looking into him since way back in 2013. Apparently, some leaked info came out a few months ago showing that the feds have been quietly building a case for over a whole decade now, according to a court filing that was filed in 2013 during a debriefing session with federal investigators. James Roseman, the music manager turned kingpin, was reportedly questioned about preferences of entertainers, including whether Shaw D. Combs was having intimate relationships with the underage boys, according to a U.S. District Court filing. But y'all, it got even messier, because there's way more where that came from. A leaked page from Kim's supposed unfinished memoir allegedly claimed that Diddy wasn't just close with Usher, he was intimate with him, and she even suggested that Diddy supposedly gave Usher, but that's not even the craziest part. An email allegedly from a publisher who is working on Kim's book leaked online, and the tea is that email was scorching. According to the message, Kim's manuscript went deep, naming names, describing footage of Diddy's encounters, dishing out details on who he allegedly slept with, incidents involving STDs, and even blowout between Diddy and Usher's mama. Y'all, this was also backed up by a blind item that went viral.
Cassie had evidence that Kim Porter gave her. So what was in Kim's book? You want to hear it? Here it go. Now, I cannot confirm or deny what's in this book, but ain't nobody fit Natasha K. me. So in this book, it detailed his relationships with men, footage of those encounters. It had the names of the men he slept with, a disease, Allegedly, Diddy giving Usher a disease.
Given everything that's come out, it's no wonder people originally saw Usher as a victim. The whole situation seemed tragic and folks genuinely felt for him. But now with Diddy's alleged confession and the receipts resurfacing, it looks like the feds might be viewing even Usher in a totally different light, as someone who may have been in on it, not just caught in the crossfire. The word in the streets is that even after all the shady stuff that Diddy allegedly put him through, Usher might have still turned a blind eye at what was happening around him. This isn't coming out of the nowhere. Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, was one of the first to drop hints, saying Usher definitely knows more than he's letting on.
Man, there's a lot of stuff that Mace and Usher know that they ain't telling about Diddy. There's a lot of stuff that they know. Can you imagine, bruh? Can you really imagine?
What you mean by Usher though?
Usher used to stay with Diddy too, when he was younger.
If you thought that Usher's mess was wild already, buckle up, because word in the streets is that Usher allegedly played a whole role in helping Diddy get to Justin Bieber. In a recent interview, Jack Barright came through with some heavy tea, claiming Usher allegedly handed Justin over to Diddy and was right there while the shady stuff was going down.
Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him on. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the Diddy for 48 hours. Think about that. He'd already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the deadline.
But when Dawn Richard took the stand at the trial, she took things from bad to worse. According to her, Diddy allegedly forced the girls of Danny Dane into freakoffs, which played a major role in why the group broke up. According to her, Usher was allegedly at these freakoffs. And not just that, but he was allegedly the one behind the camera recording all that freaky stuff that went down at the event. In case you missed it, Dawn Richard sued Diddy last year and exposed him for some pretty horrible stuff. In the lawsuit, she claimed that Diddy often spoke to her and the other members of her group, Danny Dane, in a demeaning manner. She wrote, "During auditions, Mr. Combs spoke to the female contestants in a hostile, condescending manner, making a disparaging and gender-based remarks, such as calling them fat, ugly bees and 304s. Miss Richard felt threatened and intimidated by Mr. Holmes' blatant disdain for the young women like herself who were excited for the opportunity to be on his show." She continued, "Once the ban was made, Mr. Combs' contempt for women was readily apparent as he continued to display a hostile behavior towards Miss Richard, and her all-female identity became bandmates. Mr. Combs regularly referred to the 5 women as bees and hoes and denigrated their physical appearances. By way of example, Mr. Combs stated that Miss Richard was too skinny and needed to do something about this. Her face in another section, she revealed that Diddy would force them to practice so much that it started to feel like torture to them because they were never allowed to take breaks." She wrote, "Throughout the productions of Making the Band 3 and 4, Mr. Combs deprived Miss Richard and her Danny Kane bandmates of basic needs such as adequate food and sleep. When Miss Richard and her Danny Kane bandmates requested meals or a rest, Mr. Combs refused and chastised them with derogatory comments like, 'You bees don't want this,' or 'Y'all ain't hungry enough, and I'm paying you bees.' To work, this demeaning behavior gradually undermined Miss Richard's confidence and contributed significantly to her growing feelings of insecurity and fear of reprisal from Mr. Combs." In another section, she continued, "Upon information and believed Mr. Combs would regularly be awake for prolonged periods of time because he was high on drug. During these periods, Mr. Combs demanded continuous access to Miss Richard and her Danny Kane bandmates often forcing them to record and rehearse for stretches of 36 to 48 hours without breaks, forced to choose between eating and sleeping. Miss Richard lost a significant amount of weight, weighing approximately 100 pounds. I'm almost certain that breaks just about every labor law in existence. But then again, Diddy was out here running things like a full-blown dictator. She also claimed that Diddy would allegedly have young girls hanging out in his studio partying while he passed around illegal substances like they were candy, and that lines right up with the little rod mentioned in his lawsuit. So it's not looking like just some random accusation anymore. The stories match up, and it's not a good sign. Unlike the others who've come forward with lawsuits, Dom was actually the first to speak out about Diddy's exes and Cassie Venter and Kim Porter, and the disturbing things she claimed she witnessed during her time in Danny Kane. She recalled the very first time she met Cassie, saying it happened the same day Diddy did. According to Don, Diddy allegedly zeroed in on Cassie right away and used his influence to intimidate her not long after he supposedly pressured her into dumping her boyfriend so she could start dating him instead. The way Don told it, the control started from day one. The court document said Miss Richard was present when Mr. Combs was introduced to Cassandra Cassie Venter for the first time in or around 2006. The moment Mr. Combs first saw Miss Ventura, his demeanor noticeably shifted. Mr. Combs positioned himself directly in front of Miss Venter's scent, invading her personal space and fixated on her with an intense, unyielding stare, isolating her from other people in the room, including Miss Venter's then boyfriend, music producer Ryan Leslie. It continued. Mr. Combs behaved in such an intimidating, predatory manner the first time they were off camera, made Miss Richard feel deeply apprehensive and afraid of him. Subsequently, Miss Venturi entered her relationship with Mr. Leslie and began dating Mr. Combs, who had become in towards her. But Dawn didn't stop there. She also opened up about some of the violent incidents Cassie allegedly went through at the hands of Diddy, and get this, some of the moments she described weren't even mentioned in Cassie's lawsuit. We already thought that Cassie's lawsuit and witness testimony during the trial was disturbing enough, but now that it's clear that she might have held back some of the details, it really makes you wonder just how much worse things actually were behind the scenes. Dawn said, on the first day of recording, Miss Richard and Mr. Harper arrived at Mr. Combs' home and waited in the kitchen where Mr. Combs' girlfriend, Miss Venter, was frying eggs for him. Miss Richard observed Mr. Holmes come down the stairs looking high on, enter the kitchen, approach Miss Vento, and scream, I've been asking you for my ish, I can't stand you, but you never do it right. Mr. Combs pushed Miss Vento against the wall and choked her, then picked up the scalding hot pan of eggs and threw it at her, causing her to fall to the ground in a fetal position, cursing and screaming. Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs, frozen in shock and terror. Miss Richard heard glass shattering, crashing, and banging noises as Mr. Holmes dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs, and when Dawn tried to intervene, Diddy threatened to unalive her, saying stuff like, y'all be don't get in my relationship, don't tell my B Miss Vento what she need to be doing, just make my money and shut the F up. I end artist, I shelf careers you could be missing, and you bees wanna die today? Among other threats, y'all. It sounds like Diddy was a menace and an Avengers level type of menace move over Thanos, but she then claimed that Diddy put Cassie through hell, roughing her up for the fun of it. Mr. Combs' namesake temper frequently manifested in physical. Mr. Combs regularly hurled objects in fits of rage, often throwing items such as mobile phones, laptops, food, and studio equipment across the room or at people. On numerous occasions, Miss Richard witnessed Mr. Combs brutally girlfriend Miss Cassandra Cassie Ventura. His persistence of included choking and strangling Miss Vento, striking her with his hands and with objects, slapping her, punching her, and throwing items at her, including a scalding hot pan. She also claimed that Diddy often put hands on Cassie in the presence of multiple people from the industry, including Usher. She claimed that Usher allegedly saw Diddy put hands on Cassie multiple times, but he never did or say anything. She wrote, Combs hosted a dinner at a West Hollywood, California restaurant, which Miss Richard and Miss Harper were required to attend. Among the guests at the dinner were celebrities like Neo and Usher, as well as Mr. Levine. At the dinner, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura had an argument in front of the dinner guest. Mr. Combs hissed at Miss Vento in a screaming whisper and forcibly punched her in the stomach, causing her to double over in visible pain, but crying. Miss Clark escorted Miss Ventura out of the restaurant, and Mr. Combs remained and continued socializing with the dinner guests. But that's not all, because she claimed that Usher saw Diddy put hands on Kim Porter as well, and also kept his mouth shut, she wrote on one occasion in or around 2005 during the first season of Making the Band. 3 Miss Richard observed Mr. Combs' ex-partner and the mother of his 3 children Kim Porter leaving Mr. Combs' recording studio in tears with visible facial injuries, including a lacerated lip. Realizing that Mr. Combs was capable of committing acts of against women caused Miss Richard to feel deep apprehension and fear that Mr. Holmes could one day physically harm her. So with all this information, I guess it's not that surprising that Usher might allegedly have been caught into these freak-offs. I mean, we already knew that Usher went to the Diddy parties, and he had the time of his life at these parties. Even when it got too freaky, well, at this point we have to wonder if anybody in Diddy's circle is innocent or whether, because at this point it's looking all shady. Anyways, I got to know what y'all feel about this. Do you think the Usher was a victim, or do you think that he was an accomplice? Drop your thoughts and comments below, and then check out this next video.